Hello everyone, this is Menz here. I'm going to be breaking down the M6A2E1, or better known as the Mutant M6 here in this video. This video is going to go hand in hand with a weak spot guide I have over on my website, watguru.com. Feel free to check it out. There's a link in the video description and also at the end of this video. Anyway, looking at the frontal armor here, the main trait of the M6 that makes it a pretty interesting tank to play is its frontal armor. Not only is the tank pretty intimidating looking at because it looks weird as hell, it's very tall, but its frontal armor is extremely good. So starting out here, looking at the top left here, there's really only a couple areas that are shaded green that can be considered like true weak spots, you know, for tier 6, tier 7 tanks. There's a little bit of yellow, but most of the tank is 200 millimeters effective plus. Shaded orange or red. So that makes it very difficult considering this tank does not see too many higher tiers. Its armor is pretty damn good for its tier, at least on the front of the tank. But anyway, starting out here, at the lower glacis, it's a little bit interesting here. I'm just going to toggle this overlay here for a second so you can see it a little bit closer. But the very bottom part here, that kind of juts out underneath the actual lower glacis, it's actually a piece of spaced armor, and you're not really going to want to shoot this area. It's very strong. If you actually hit the piece of hull armor behind the space armor piece, it's 813 millimeters effective. So don't shoot the low bit on the space arm or the lower glacis. I mean, you're going to want to aim at the actual lower glacis, that is the full width of the hull here. But still, that is 257 millimeters effective. Pretty damn strong for a tier 8. Even 9s are going to struggle penetrating this tank unless they throw premium rounds, and even then, you know, you still have a chance to bounce off of it. It's one good thing, you know, the M6 not seeing tier 10 tanks definitely does help it out quite a bit. And really, frontally, if they're shooting at your upper lower glacis, you really only have to worry about premium rounds getting thrown at you for the most part, because your lower glacis is so strong here. Now moving up, the upper glacis here, very strong and very large, 280 millimeters effective armor. And then moving to the weakest spot on the frontal hull are the cheeks, which usually on tanks are pretty strong. However, these little triangles here at the bottom are actually not angled as much as the upper bit. They're 216 millimeters effective and 245 on the main part of this cheek armor. And that's the weakest part of the hull. Now, effective armor takes into account the slope. So APCR shells will negate a little bit of the armor values you see here, but it does give you a pretty good sense, the strength of it. Now, moving up here to the turret. Now, the turret ring center, as it's labeled here, is this yellow area right in the center of the turret ring. The turret ring on the M6 A2E1 is pretty large, easy to hit, and this yellow area is 195 millimeters effective. And then just above this area is the beneath mantlet area. It's 233, so a lot stronger, but still, considering the rest of the frontal armor, it's, you know, it's considered some, not weak, but it's at least a spot where if you miss the turret ring just below it, you do have a chance to penetrate there. Now, moving up to turret front number 2, I guess going through the list over here, that's this orange little slit here on the side, or sliver I should say. It's actually weaker than the armor, which is turret front 1, that's basically right next to the mantlet. That's usually flat on most tanks. However, both areas here are angled at 40 degrees horizontal, only 4 vertical, and since it's 180 here on the orange outlined area, it's actually 240 millimeters effective, and then the area right next to the mantlet's 300. Really hard to actually hit this area in pen, so not really worthwhile to shoot at it much unless it's for whatever reason your only shot that you can take. Anyway, moving to the true weak spots on the front of the M6, depending on your tank. Now the cupola it's got some pretty hefty angles on it. As far as vertical angles go, on the cupola center, 33 degrees up to 49 degrees, and then it's angled 25 degrees horizontal. So that puts it between 117 and 150. So tier 6 and tier 7s can actually penetrate the center of the cupola. However, with the height of the M6, good luck actually hitting it. Say you're coming across it in a Comet or Cromwell or pretty much any tank, because this tank is tall enough to where you actually can't see the cupola unless you're very far away, actually slightly above the tank. You're not really even going to see it. So that's something you do have to contend with, because while the cupola, the center of it, is pretty damn weak for the front of the M6, good luck actually hitting it in most tanks. And then just beneath here, actually the cupola edges, let me get to them. The edges of the cupola 212 to 271. So they're pretty damn strong. The 212 part refers to the bottom bit of the cupola, and then the top corner areas are the 271 millimeters effective. So they get a lot stronger once you get to the edges, but you're not going to see the cupola a lot of times. Now the turret roof here, it's 41 millimeters thick here, and it's angled at 74 degrees, so it will auto bounce, say AP, APCR shells. It is only 149 millimeters effective though, so if you can't overmatch it, if your gun isn't above 124 millimeters in caliber, heat shells, since they don't ricochet until 80 degrees, you'll actually be able to penetrate it if you hit that roof. Now, on this side of the turret front, as you can see, it actually kind of dips down here and it's a little bit larger. That can help you because given the height of the M6, usually if you're close to it, good luck hitting the turret roof because it's that tall. You're not going to be able to shoot up at it. You won't be able to hit any of the 41 millimeter thick armor. Now, just above the mantlet here, it's 229 millimeters thick, 6 degrees, 230 millimeters effective, and the mantlet center here around the gun, very hard to actually hit these areas because they don't have any armor behind them, and it has a lot of areas around it that's tougher, but it is considered a weak spot. Anyway, let's get to the side, but first just wanted to show you what I was kind of talking about here. This is the space armor plate that I was talking about in the lower plate. It actually has hull armor behind it. It's angled very heavily. There is a small chance you can hit like right at these corners, but it's still really strong. Trust me, it's not worth shooting at it. Anyway, moving to the sides here. Let me get this lined up best I can. These little backpack little things on the back aren't worth shooting. They're not part of the hull. Anyway, once you get to the side of the M6, really weak as far as the armor goes. Almost the entire side, for the most part, is beneath 159 millimeters effective, most of it under 100. But looking at the side hull armor, upper side hull 72 millimeters at most as far as the effective armor. Moving down, if you don't hit any tracks, it's 66 millimeters. And then if you hit a track, hit spaced armor, adds 25 millimeters to it, but at most it's going to be 111 millimeters effective. Now, one thing to keep in mind, you actually don't want to shoot these little, basically on the space armor, right where it starts to jut out, where it gets jagged on the bottom, don't shoot beneath this area because there's no hull armor there, unless you're shooting up at an M6. But if you're shooting, on level ground, don't shoot lower than that because you won't hit anything. At the front, a little bit of that thicker front hull armor actually bleeds over to the side, so avoid shooting there. Same thing with the turret front. The much thicker turret front armor bleeds over to the side and curves around. So really try not shooting anywhere past this where it starts to bend towards the front. And then the only other strong bits on the side turret, it's only 89 millimeters effective right in this area. This is a little bit stronger here, but this yellow area is the area that sits just beneath 200 millimeters effective. And then you have the little bits of the cupola, if you can see it. But this little other turret side is 90 to 110 millimeters effective. Let me pop over to the other turret side here. I don't have an image for that, but essentially on this side of the turret, you're going to start out at 90 millimeters here instead of the 89 that covers this whole side like the other side. It goes 90, 100, 110 towards the back. It actually gets thicker. So it's still not very strong, but it is worth noting that the two turret sides are a little bit different. Now, popping into the rear, again, pretty damn weak. Unlike the side turret, though, the rear turret on the M6 here is actually pretty damn strong. Starting at the top here, 208 millimeters, 218 millimeters, 396 plus, like it goes over 500 millimeters effective on this little bulge area, even though it's 89 millimeters thick. Towards the bottom here, it's angled very well. Pretty much don't shoot at the rear turret unless you hit the very bottom areas here outlined in green. They're the only weak spots on the back. The raised engine deck here is 25 millimeters thick, but it's angled at 82 degrees, so it will auto bounce things, but most guns facing the M6 is 76 millimeters plus, so you're going to be able to overmatch it. But the rest of the rear hull armor is very weak outside of the very small sliver of yellow here that will bounce some shots if you decide to shoot the very bottom. Don't know why you would do that, but you know, it is worth noting. Try to avoid hitting the very bottom area if you can. But anyway, the M6 armor is pretty damn tough for a tier 8. Really, it's just centered around the frontal armor, but the frontal armor is so good that, you know, it's gonna give people a run for their money if they don't know where its weak spots are, because it doesn't have many. It doesn't have the lower plate weak spot. The cheeks, even though, you know, they're pretty weak compared to the rest of the hull, they're still pretty damn strong for tier 8 that, you know, only sees up to tier 9. So if you come across the M6, your best bet is actually to flank it, because the rear and also the side is very weak. Because a lot of times from the front, you're going to struggle to hit, you know, the cupola, the turret roof here. And your best bet is trying to aim center mass at that turret ring, since that's the main, like, viable weak spot from the front on the M6. Because most tanks can't hit the cupola. But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed watching this video. Hopefully it helps you out a bit, since the M6 is going to be on sale on the NA server for 1 day. Like I said, it should be popping up here in a second. There is a link to the full weak spot guide for the M6 over on my website, wattguru.com. Feel free to check it out. There's also a link in the video description below. Hopefully, you know, you're able to kill these M6s. You don't see many of them, but we're probably about to see quite a few of them pop up. But anyway, thanks again for watching. I'll see you around. Have a very nice day.